Negotiations on a deal tightening immigration laws appear to be in jeopardy this morning.
During a closed-door meeting with fellow Republicans on Wednesday, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell cast doubt on a deal being reached. Now, McConnell has been pushing for a bipartisan deal to pass border legislation and foreign aid together. But former President Trump is asking GOP members to kill the immigration deal, which would leave a deal for Ukraine funding in doubt.
NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley joins us now with the latest developments here. Julia, good morning. So what can you tell us about this closed-door meeting? What do we know that happened?
Well, what it shows is the power of Donald Trump on the Hill. He's a candidate. He's a former president. He is not in any of these meetings, but boy, is his presence felt. And what we understand is that basically the former president doesn't want this deal to go through. He's messaging that to Republicans. And now you have McConnell, who's starting to walk back. He said one of the things that we were able to report, that my Hill colleagues were able to report, is that he said, you know, the border used to be what united us and Ukraine divided us, but the politics have shifted, that they're now dividing, especially among Republicans, about whether or not there should be a border deal at all. It's not about brass tacks. We've talked a lot about the things that the Democrats were willing to negotiate on, some of the things that were holding this up. This really just has to do with whether or not they're going to do a border deal at all.
A lot of criticism about what McConnell had to say, including from some Republicans like Mitt Romney. We've since heard from Leader McConnell following that meeting with Republicans. So what's he saying and where do things stand right now?
Yeah, that's right. So at first we're reporting on a closed-door meeting, and then the Senate Majority Leader McConnell did come forward, and he talked about a meeting that he had, or things that he said to Janet Yellen and President Biden, and here's what he had to say.
I did make it clear to both of them that we have to have a credible solution to the wide-open border in order to get a bill that includes all of the things that I think are important across the Senate floor. Border security needs to be a part of this package if it's going to move out of the Senate.
And it's important to know when he's saying that there were already a number of provisions that would have dramatically tightened the border, including raising the bar on claiming asylum and perhaps increasing the number of beds in ICE detention to try to make it so that more migrants are detained as they await their court hearings. There were a lot of very, tangible ways that they were going to make the border more secure. And now he's saying, look, we need something bigger on border security. One thing they could be pointing to in this case is a House bill known as H.R. 2, which is basically a Republican wish list of everything they want done at the border. Basically, he's raising the bar here and casting a lot of doubt on whether or not a deal will be reached at all.
Julia, what level of urgency is going on here with trying to get this done?
Well, it used to be something we thought could get done before Christmas, before people left for the holidays. Now, then we started to think it was going to get done last week. We've been hearing a lot from the negotiators. OK, text this week, text next week, at least trying to get it done by the end of January. Now it seems that there are so many Republicans who are feeling pressure from Trump not to budge at all on border and to basically not get this done because he wants to continue to use this as a political weapon to show that Biden isn't doing anything on the border, that the borders are open, keep the numbers high so that he can use that in a campaign effort against the current president. And so it seems that the urgency to get anything done now may be fading.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.